Alrighty, folks. So first, I have to test the audio, which is always fun. So you guys are going to hear a little bit of an echo here. Oh my god, the veteran TV is so funny. If you guys haven't talked to our veterans ever, you should. Our veterans are great and they're fantastic, wonderful sense of humor, which is always fun. So you guys are going to hear a little bit of an echo. The veteran TV is so funny. Let's see, I should do this. If you guys haven't talked to our veterans ever, you should. Pick at my fucking ear live on YouTube like a dumbass. Alright, we're just waiting for my camera to show up on the YouTube screen so I can make sure that you guys are actually seeing this. Oh, there it is. Look at that. I'm technologically advanced. Let's close that. Okay. We will close that now that I know that there's audio. So today we're talking about a website that I have previously talked about many a time. It's called Snesfun.com. Okay, it is a website that you can go to and play SNES games. And you can see on here that they have on the side, they have Sega Genesis, they have Game Boy Advance, they have everything. Okay. Now, Nintendo is pretty damn famous for suing the ever-living hell out of anybody. You'll notice real quickly that there doesn't seem to be, and I'll even prove my point by going to Z. There is not a lot of Nintendo games. That is by design. There's not a lot of Nintendo games because Nintendo will go after them. Now, people are, of course, are wondering about the legality regarding, Nintendo suing you and all that. If you download it to your computer and you don't have a legal copy on hand, Nintendo will come after you. You know. And of course, I keep dropping my controller. So as everyone knows that my controller basically is toast. My terrible rock candy controller. If you guys are wondering what a secondary good controller is that's dirt cheap, it's this Logitech. This is not sponsored by them at all. This is just what I use. The only complaints I have with this is they put a pretty heavy spring right here. So the bumpers, the left trigger, right trigger, and all that, they're a little stiff. That's both good and bad. My only other complaint is I have big hands, okay? They're the size of a small frying pan. They're not the largest, but when I put them under here and my knuckles slam against this little bumper, trust me, I notice. Now, anywho, these are worth it. They're only, I think I got this one for $17.99 off of Amazon. They've been making these since 2006, and they have not changed these. And Logitech, as a company, will not change anything if they don't have to. And these controllers are an example of that. They do last a while. So I've had one before. They are pretty good. They work on PC. They work on PS3. They work on a wide variety of devices. So just in case anybody's wondering. But anywho. That actually does bring me to my next point with SNESfun.com or Sega Genesis. I should be able to click on this and OBS should display the window. Of course they don't. So let me add that window. Oh, they do display. Okay. Okay, good. No. Don't open my files. People don't need to see that. Actually, I think I cleared off anything not YouTube friendly. But they do have Sega Genesis as well. It is all good stuff. Now, Sega is actually really cool because Sega doesn't care. They don't support these games. They don't care if you play these games pirated or not. The only thing they care about is that you don't violate whoever made the game. So like all the Sega stuff, like Ultra Beast, for example, as you can see it's right here, or Alien Storm is right there, or Sonic, they won't come after you if you download it, even if you don't have a physical copy. They just ask that you don't distribute. So if you're not distributing, fine. If you're running an online archive like this website here, fine. Like they really don't care. Just one way that Sega is better than Nintendo, by the way. My first console was a SNES, by the way. Just now, Sony also doesn't care. Sony is really good in that they don't care on that. Even American Sony, I always shit on American Sony. I grew up a Sony fanboy, and I really remember and prefer Japanese Sony. But I will admit that, like, American-owned Sony, even they don't care. The only thing they care is if what you do with your pirated copy interrupts their sales. So that's about it. They really they can't be bothered at all. You can pirate things all day. You could rip things right off their website. If you email them and ask them, they'll even give you like whatever file you're missing or whatever that you need. But these online archives, if you're playing online on an archive like this, you don't actually have to worry about that. Let's see. Neo Geo, I'm pretty sure the company who made the Neo Geo, the SNK Corporation, I'm pretty sure they're defunct. I could be wrong about that. SNK, you gotta be careful of them. There's two games you don't touch, okay? You don't touch King of Fighter. That's the first one, and then you don't touch Guilty Gear. If you avoid those two, they just don't care. You can see right here, they have under K right here, they have everything but King of Fighter. And to be fair, Neo Geo, they actually preserve the King of Fighter series and franchise, so they kind of have the right to be mad. And this is not me being a bootlicker, by the way. It's just they kind of have the right to enforce that one. Now, I'm somebody that if I can get things legally for a reasonable price, I will. Okay, like Actraiser. Okay. Well, look at that, James. You're actually live on YouTube right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you go to my YouTube channel, I'm actually streaming. I'm talking about snesfun.com. I was actually just talking about piracy at the moment.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. You can see my whole live stream and everything. Yeah. So I was thinking about buying Modern Warfare Remastered and then copy pasting the files and sending those to everybody. What's a good site for that?
To like send the files?
Yeah, it's gotta be free and it's gotta not be traceable. Steam doesn't give a shit. I know they don't, but you know how Activision is and Microsoft.
Yeah, I just use nofile.io. That's always what I use.
Okay. There was something else I was going to ask you. I don't remember what it was, though. It wasn't what I was going to ask you, but do you think you can learn how to use Horizon Modern Warfare and then teach Jonathan how to use it for me? That one's going to be a pain in the ass, because even I don't know how to do it yet.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll work on Linux, but
It
if
will.
does,
Actually, I do know that it will. I already looked into that because I know.
okay.
Yeah, they open source software. They thought of everything. They just don't allow you to use hacked copies. If you have, Modern Warfare copy, they allow you to do that. I also wanted to ask your opinion on Sega Online emulator. What you thought of that website?
I haven't actually used that one yet.
Okay.
That's not one I've come across on my stuff.
Just because I looked at Reddit/r piracy, so
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
r/piracy. That's a pretty good.
yeah, I figured they're pretty good. I mean, they all seemed like they were, Chad McMuffin rather than a bunch of boy slop bug eaters.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, that's still a pretty. I use that one sometimes. It's a pretty based subreddit.
Yeah, it was a site they recommended, so I was like, let me just ask James right quick.
Yeah. I've used information on r/piracy a lot. Actually, it's a pretty useful
Yeah.
subreddit.
I mean, I figured they were good. It's just like I know somebody who specializes in this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's like Pawn Stars. I'm like I'll bring in an expert. I know a guy who's an expert.
Speaking of, what website of torrent do you use? Don't tell me. Just shoot me a link to the torrent you use.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Alien Breed. I've never seen that
Come
one.
over on Signal.
Well, I mean, since you're live on YouTube, you might as well go watch my live feed. All right. I will call you back though, because I am still on the video and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to you later. Man.
Talk to you later. Good old handy dandy cousin. Oh, look at that. It ends my live feed on you. Oh, ads. So that is the one thing about Snesfun is they do pop-up ads. So there is that. I mean, that's not a big deal. That's very minor. But yeah, no, this website's great. They find what they can. Oh, what is a Turbo Graphics 16? What is that? I've never seen that. I've never seen that. I don't know that one. You guys will have to comment below if you know what console that is. Sega SMS, I do know that one. I didn't grow up with that. I did grow up with a lot of these games. I did have physical copies. Unfortunately, a lot of them got stolen out of storage, but that's how it goes. But this website's great. It's free. You can even download the emulator. Just have an air of caution if you guys download the emulator, because if you download the emulator, you open the door for companies to possibly come after you. Now, the US law and how it works and everything, if you have a physical copy anywhere, a legitimate licensed copy, that'll usually shut down any lawsuit. Nintendo has tried, they have failed. That's how we know. Nintendo has backed off before, in their army of lawyers. So just be aware. If you just play it online, you're probably fine. I say you're probably fine. I know you're fine, okay? That's the deal with that one. I know you're fine if you just play it online. So in the case of that, the copyright and all that falls on the website. The guys who run the website, if you can even find them, good luck. I've looked in their history. They've been sued before by companies who've managed to find them. They keep moving around. So finding them's already a trick in itself, but every lawsuit they've ever been in, they've won. So, and that's more just Nintendo overreaching. That's not any of the companies that they post on their website. For example, they did get sued over Tasmania, and then Warner Brothers got back and were like, no, that's our copyright. That's not for you to sue over. Terminator 2 Judgment Day for the Sega Genesis. I remember this. This game was great. This game was just fantastic. So you can see, you can download it here. Okay. I used to have this game, man. Or you could just straight up play the game online. Not the game I want to show you guys. So this is the SNES version that was later ported to, or excuse me, this was the Sega Genesis version that was ported to the SNES. Most people don't know that was ported to the SNES. I had both copies, okay? This game was great. Now, the SNES Terminator 2 game that you're thinking of is, of course, terrible because Arnold didn't want them to use guns in that game, and it was awful, and it was a terrible platformer. And they did that for Total Recall as well. So, you know, they did it first for Total Recall, then they did it for Terminator. And Sega looked at that and they told him, no, we're putting guns. We have the license already. You can't do anything. You know, just that's, yeah. Oh, look at that. There's The Legend of Zelda. So they do have some of the Zelda games. Now, A Link to the Past in particular, the only catch is they want you to use only a specific version of that. That is actually due to the creator of Zelda himself being pro-piracy. You know, he was autistic and he actually liked to pirate games. If you wanted to know a famous person who, you know, was autistic, by the way, the creator of Zelda, Yoshi's Island, and a few other games. Yeah, super autistic, more autistic than me. You know, I talk about guns like I talk about, you know, you'd expect me to talk about trains. I don't really care about trains. Guns, though, yeah. Ooh, here's another game I used to have. I used to have Todd McFarlane's Spawn. It is fucking brutal. It is a brutal game to play. I used to have Tom and Jerry. Truck got broken into, that got stolen. It's the story of my life. I did not have Top Gear 2, but I did have Top Gear 3000. And this is actually the game I'm going to use to show you guys the features of the website itself. Because, and you know, I usually just have this controller plugged in 24/7. But I wanted to show you guys. Don't click ads, you don't know. I wanted to show you guys this game because, you know, you have the JavaScript version, you have the Flash emulator, you have the Virtual Boy. Okay, you do have cheats in the corner. You can add it to your favorite games, game description, share the game. Okay, so if you find a game you like and you want to share it with somebody, the people who made Top Gear 3000, by the way, the company I'm pretty sure is now defunct. Let's see. Let's go to the description. Actually, they'll probably talk about the history. TG 3000 racing game developed by Gremlin Interactive. Yes, they are down. They are they are now defunct. Chemco is still around. Chemco does not care. Chemco is just the publisher. They pushed this game. Gremlin's the one that made it. You know, and as far as it goes, you know, Chemco's actually pretty chill. You know, I'm pretty sure this is actually the legitimate, like, files and everything that they got from Chemco. So let's see. I think my JavaScript is, yeah. So they are gonna play this, okay? Thank you. So you can see they're talking about controls here, keyboard, D-pad, blah, 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 blah. You can edit these. Let's see here. Yeah, let's do this. Let's see. Gamepad, 360 number 1 connected. Okay. Advanced settings. Let's see if I remember how to do this, because I've done this before. Yeah, okay. So My Y is my X and Z. Okay. My B button is my B and A. Okay. My A button is my C and B. What? I do have up, down, left, right. Up, down, left, right. BA start. Konami code for you. Let's see. My X button is my Y. No, my Y is my X. My S and Y. Okay. My S and Y is my X button. That's this one. My LR is my R1, L1. Makes sense. Okay. So it's actually like ready to go. With my Rock Candy controller, I had to set it up. Sure, let's save for all. So for the music itself, I just want to talk about is by a artist, and he still does in fact have the copyright of the music itself. He actually gives permission for YouTube. Don't trust me, it's quite not easy. But you can find his stuff on Spotify. He's actually a really cool dude in terms of letting his music be on YouTube or be on Spotify. His music, the artist in question is Neil Dickens. And I'll tell you guys the names of the songs I have out there if I remember. So you can do miles per hour, kilometers. As a little kid, I didn't understand the difference. I always thought kilometers was a bigger number. Now I do know the difference. The math on kilometers is actually easier than miles per hour. Miles per hour is 12.39788. I can continue the rest of the numbers, but you get bored. In multiples of that. Kilometers is multiples of 10. What did I used to put? Oh, I used to put my name, and then I would find out that I couldn't put my full name because it's 6 letters. You guys know that my full name is Austin, or Slaughter, just like my name. I'm sure YouTube will get mad at me for that, but what can they do? This is not a child appropriate video, so that they can I'm doing this with the control. Credits, transfers, tires, gearbox, all tests. This. Oh yeah, this is sweet. Now there are some mild visual glitches. I mean, there's that. You can see them on the screen. Bitch. Come on. Very last one to get first place. Okay. It's so split second on the other bullet that it really doesn't bother me. You have to understand that I grew up with CRT. So the visual glitches, for one, are not anything new to me. Number two, the graphics were a hell of a lot worse. Especially when you hooked up an old SNES. were built around actually having the scan logs. So if you hook up your old console and compare it to the new TV, that's the reason why. You remember the game looking better because it actually was looking better. Other than that, I mean, miscellaneous visual glitches aside, this game runs perfectly. This website does everything right. I'm pretty sure that track was free. And I hit all the bonuses. All of the songs are done by music. The guys who made this game are interactive. They couldn't afford to hire more than one artist. They actually had to fire the graphics designer. And so one of their coders actually did the graphics. I know the whole history. I know. In this game, some of the things is like the tires are for controllability, gearbox recovery, blah, increases speed, so that car condition does matter. Having good armor means that you're bumping into other cars a lot, you're not doing a lot of damage, you're not losing stats. Your boost is whatever. Upgrading it just increases how frequently and how long it lasts. Just fast enough to get through everything. I don't remember the name of the soundtrack. I want to say it was like Boss or something like that. It's not Cheetah. It's not Cheetah. Those are all that's the thing, is even easy mode in these games are, harder than manual. So, when people are like, how do you play on partners or veterans? Why is Call of Duty recommended last year? Why is online multiplayer so hard? It's like a gentle read. Okay, the only time you get hard is when the handler plays actually like straight up polish. It's always fun when you just kill each other's problems with a pistol, or even a throwing knife or whatever. I don't miss the cost one. I do still play on the PS3, so there is that. You guys should check out the other games. I don't know a lot of so it's great to be able to just on your mind and get my version and enjoy some of the nostalgia. The two-player mode on this, I don't know if it works on this website, but the two-player mode on this especially when you start getting into the weapons. And yes, there are those in this game. Murph was actually the engineer for this game. And yeah, back in the day, a lot of guys who are doing engineering were also in the video game industry. But the engineer who did this game was talking about how they were inspired by the old Speed Racer anime. Something I watched when I was like 2 or 3. The good old codes. I think I saw the paper with just a bunch of codes. Fucking leaking everywhere. This is some of these maps are like very obviously based off of things inspired by things. I wonder if there's This is why I upgrade my car. The secret on this game is just to slow down on the fuel strips. Then the faster you pass through them, the less fuel you get. I love throwing this music on. It's actually on my playlist for television and stuff. And I'm walking dog inside and, or, when I'm pairing up COD lobbies and making people send me death threats, there's that too. What an accusation. I feel like the newer generation is coming into the game. Everybody thought that actually good, so they just go with whatever meta, and they, spew out death threats and racial slurs the moment they encounter somebody who actually knows the game. I feel that my bones. You wouldn't think they would have made a competent racing game on the NES or the Sega Genesis, but this is on the SNES. Sega Genesis Road Rash 2 is very complicated. This is okay. This is okay. Road Rash 2 is actually just phenomenal. Especially the 2-player mode. I don't even know what I'm getting. up money. With this one is just pick a path as quickly as possible. Also, if anybody's wondering, the first ever race that I actually played the first PS. But I actually hate the most version of the game because it has races I don't like the straight top track race. Especially when you get penalized if you fail to race on the track with somebody, which Need for Speed is all about slamming. It doesn't make sense to me. That's questionable to see. I can't tell. Glitchy graphics and flashing on the screen. Don't even know. Yes. More money the better. Done. They used to make these games to, not just make money, but to see what they can do and what they can make. And that's the difference. These people were passionate about making the game. And even guys who didn't like playing the video game, because there were guys who just didn't care to play the game at all, or didn't play video games, or like video games. They were still passionate about it. And it just made some difference. Okay. Oh, I hate this track. Not the music track, I love the music track, I just don't like it. Mainly those two things, agony. Right around the last 4, 2, 3. Terrible. This is the first 2 lines. Last two not horrible. There's the one thing I really they make it ugly too, because you just start slowing down. Just like in real life, you have no gas charges. Figures out. Do it. That's why you always say hopefully I can one better than two. So that gives me a point. Come on. Once you run out on me. I don't think there's second with Catholic Congratulations, Kunti. Somebody's gotta have a scoreboard for this. But no. Keep it working. I'm pretty sure I was talking shit about the news earlier, it's very, very small. I'm going to need it, because this planet is also going to need a lot more turns. That wide doesn't stop now. This might be the end of my run. Good to have games like this and all Good with the boosts that I have. Oh, this map's nice. I love those screenshots. That's fine. You got in first place because I was driving. There was no way I was gonna make that. Oh, you only ran this maybe. Well, we'll see. There's the 20. This is cool. Oh, this is the soundtrack. Let's do 23 laps. That's why I like this. quick drive around without getting obvious that protection. And one of them You're wondering you can't sell parts. Great man. Boston Street Card little nice touch. And when I was a kid, I thought it was something that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's just a little makes it a little bit difficult, but it's still, you know, for the kids in the 90s, you know, that's what You know, I always have a nice spot in my heart for the SNES when it first released. But, I mean, the Sega Genesis, honestly, is superior. Yeah, the controllers were worse. No, looks like I got a second. Not horrible. I really good in. Not what I over the years, these series exist. They're made of other paintings. Just like how Actors 1 but they did do a remaster for the PS4 and for Steam. So if you have a PS4, it's really good. They have original graphics if you want it. Not sponsored by whoever made that. It's a really good platform. That one I thought was beautiful. I mean, at this point, you guys can see that it's not just the game one in particular that I have extra stuff on this side of the book. I have to quit picking my nose. We're getting too tight. Oh, no secret bonus. Some of the names in the credits for it, by the way, are actually like financials for if you want to like actually see them all, you can get through pretty much the whole game. It's a waste of money. I'm sure everybody can see that I like those, yeah. Or ass, everything fucking race. That one was like a belt-worthy one because those consoles were not cheap even if you got them second hand. And people really think it's $60 for this. Try $120. Brand new, I'm sure they were probably like, oh, it's only $60, but it was like catch up speed to whoever's in front. If that sounds stupid, it's because, well, it is. There's, five Let's see, where am I at here? I want to see in the last 3 races here. Okay. I feel like they use that engine sound effect of speeding up for like every game ever. The Come on. I wasn't even expecting it to like make it all the way to the fun part. Which is why the studio is so much longer than I was anticipating. It's probably like a couple hours Crash. I have enough. I have very little fuel as it is. Left step here. I'll hold another one with no gas. Oh, why would I do that? Well, lamp up. One fucking boost. Oh, and I used the boost just awesome. And I crashed. God, is everything gonna go fucking wrong here? He said if everything went to shit. I find it amazing that those Fobbits are actually in another fucking war. Ooh, there it is. The engine wants to go, but the car won't. Come on. Yeah, that's the end. Ooh, I might have gotten lucky here. Holy shit, what was that blind luck? Game's like, you're not dumb, bitch. I actually might make it to the end of the game now. Nope. That crash probably sealed the deal. Yeah, you're not in first place. I'm probably gonna get second, third. Looks like I'm in third. Oh, second. Okay, it's not terrible. I will take a second place when I should have been fucking over with. Bisexual pride, fucking flag, ass, sky. A new development. I just bought armor. Are you serious? Look at that, I just bought the best armor in the game last fucking round. Only to find there's new armor. Titanium cobalt, that sounds... There's nothing that I can buy that possibly make it easier right now. I'm getting towards the end of the game though, so there's that. you're gonna show off your planet to a bunch of people, and all there is oil barrels inside there. Oh yeah. There's some pollution. Most of these cars are like electric and nuclear. Back when we thought electric were like the future. But then Elon's like, I'm gonna make an electric that's so terrible it proves everyone wrong. Fucking lizard man. The guy's such a fucking clown too that like even Donald Trump is like, what the fuck, dude? Like you knew about what this bill was before anybody else, and you're still gonna complain. I think it's funny that I've never liked that guy because he's always been an Andrew Yang Democrat, and then you know, and then like now both parties hate him. And it's like, oh really? Only now do both parties hate you? Like really? I hated that guy from the very beginning. You know, what I think is actually really cool though is Aston Martin. Speaking of electric cars, they made a solar-powered car that can get up to 187 miles per hour. Like, in theory, it can reach 200, but it's not really what it was made to do. In practical terms, it's more like, 187. This was a while back, too. But to charge it, you don't even go to like the charging station. You just open up the hood of your car and let it sit in the sun. And they did it in such a way that it's not like a security problem to open up the hood of your car like in the middle of nowhere. So like you could go fuck around in a restaurant, have the hood of your car open, and the only thing anybody can do is come by and like smash the solar panels, which would suck. But you can charge your car, and it's like that's really fucking cool. Yeah, like just the idea of not requiring a charging station and not requiring gas for your car, like that type of shit is actually the future. You know, and like it's funny because I think like the things like that with anything like that is like, like seatbelts used to be considered a luxury feature that you could pay for, you know, and like that was the future. We all have seatbelts, right? So like, you know, having a solar powered car is a luxury feature now, but I bet you in the future it actually like it's the thing. So. And that's not to say that batteries don't destroy the environment, by the way. I just think if you can have a battery that you can actually actively charge, actively in a vehicle, it's less likely to end up in a landfill. So I think that kind of outweighs the cons of the idea of something like that. What is this? Another one? So here's an interesting thing, is you can tell that they didn't really know about cars, because the more shifts you add to a car, it doesn't get faster, it gets slower. I don't need this. My armor's good enough. could max out my armor next round. Oh, I hope I make it to the end of this game. That would actually be great. The other thing with these longer videos is nobody fucking watches them. But, you know, YouTube will actually push and promote your channel if you do them. Even though short content is the new popular thing. Like, my shorts get hundreds of views. I get new subscribers from those too. So. But then, like, getting YouTube to push my channel itself is already difficult. You know, but then it's like if I sweeten the tea, so to speak, you know, if I make my channel politically correct and crap, it's ingenuine. So then people don't actually want the shit. You know, so the only way to get me, you know, get YouTube to push my channel is these long live streams. Fucking no. Which you know, whatever. This channel was always meant to be like a hobby. This was never meant to be anything serious. If I can get my channel more viewers, I would try. You know, if I ever made it to the point where I was actually making money off of this channel, great. It's just, that's an unrealistic objective. If I wanted to make money doing videos, you know, OnlyFans is more realistic. Or, better yet, there are plenty of other alternate websites that are getting their start. They're like an alternative to YouTube's censorship algorithm, where companies are starting to invest. But then, like, those companies have less control in how those websites work. Whereas on YouTube, they have way too much control. That's part of the problem. You know, there's a reason why you guys probably don't see things like, you know, Filthy Frank or How Basic anymore. And, you know, it's not that they don't exist or nobody does that type of content. It's just that YouTube will push it. It's not advertisement friendly. Even though that's honestly, like, some of the goofiest crap that we've actually read. It's kind of a funny word. Come on. Here we go. Come on. What happens if they jump across? Oh, I missed the jump. I want to find out. Okay, so where am I in this competition? Chicken now, liquor, now playing an SNES game. That would be great for a live stream. Oh, YouTube. YouTube would be so pissed. He was throwing up on a live stream. Meanwhile, I can find people who are live streaming themselves like in a car scene chase and after they rob a liquor store. Fastest engine. How am I getting to town? Holy shit. First. You know, what's really funny too is actually speaking of renewable energies, solar power is definitely a must, but like the actual future is going to be nuclear. It's just, there's a big fear and scare around it, understandably, because in the past, you know, we had an army-controlled nuclear facility that actually blew up, and the government covered it up for the longest time, you know, and it turns out they were just screwing around. They had one experienced nuclear physicist who was also the nuclear engineer, which you should never have one guy fill the role of two jobs, obviously. And then they had like 3 inexperienced guys, and so what happened with that one is the first thing that happened is the nuclear engineer / nuclear physicist got overworked, and so he went on vacation. You know, sounds like no problems there. But the only problem is he had 2 assistants who were inexperienced and didn't know what they were fully doing, who couldn't reach him, and you know, to make up for that, the army decided to bring on a new guy who didn't know what he was doing at all. These guys were just all starting to basically like learn a little bit of the job as they go. They were not physicists and they were definitely not engineers yet. Well, long story short, they were supposed to do one thing, but they were so exhausted they fucked it up. So in the nuclear facility, they had to pull up a nickel rod, and they had to pull it up, so they had to twist a lever, pull it up, half an inch, okay, and then put it back down, twist it, and close it, and that was enough to vent the heat in the nuclear rod. That was it. But the inexperienced guy, the new guy, was so exhausted from being overworked that he pulled it up 3.5 feet and then put it back down and twisted, which caused it to vent in excess of energy, which caused the whole entire system actually to overproduce and then overheat as a result of the overcooling. You know, and so what happened then is all alarms started blaring in the facility. Okay. Now the facility has 2 failsafes. One that can be activated and shut off, and that one that can be activated and shut off. Well, the other 2 guys who were also overworked and exhausted saw all the alarms blaring, thought it was a system glitch, and turned off the alarm. So there's one failure system and it's automated, right? Well, the failure system that's automated is that the excess energy is to be vented into a cooling system, a water cooling system, and then all the excess energy would probably evaporate the water. Not a big issue. Everything would cool down. Everything would turn back to normal. The facility would then shut down. Not a problem, right? Well, nature, in its infinite glory, clams had blocked the vent ports to vent the energy into the water. So the clams were probably nice and cooked, and this clam chowder had caused all systems to fail, causing a nuclear meltdown within the Army facility. Of course, the other fear has to do with, radiation and its toxic effects and everything, all that, into transport nuclear waste, which, by the way, you can hit those containers with a runaway train, and there is, in fact, videos of that happening online. You can go on YouTube right now and look them up. And, nothing happens. There's no harm. They will not be broken open by a runaway train. They're designed to withstand a 9.0 earthquake. So, and as far as the nuclear waste itself, what happens is you put it in a hole in the ground for like 20 years and then pull it up after a while, and it's just regular, normal material, depleted material. It doesn't have any issues of, harming the environment or killing anyone. The only problems is corruption within nuclear facilities, and it actually the corruption can be talked about at the U.S. government. Privatized nuclear facilities do not have these sort of problems. Any time our government has gotten involved in a facility, we've had issues. There's actually a nuclear facility not far from here. It's in California. I want to say it's like 3 cities away. Government got involved. They gave this shill company a bunch of money. They failed. The company couldn't get the facility running, and now it's just leaking radiation. It's actually like a dangerous health hazard to society right now. And here's the really bonkers part. This is the part where they really just grind down like a paste. They hire security. Okay, if you try to run up to the facility, you would think you would get gunned down or something. No, you can probably make it in. How confident are you that you can outrun a mall cop? You're probably pretty damn confident, I would hope. That's the type of security they have. Nuclear material. And so, this facility pretty much got the go-ahead to close down and do nothing about leaking radiation. And what's worse about it is, it's still essentially government funded. They're still wasting taxpayer dollars on this privatized company that's just allowed to have this blatant political corruption. And they have mall cops guarding it. Okay, and these guys are understaffed, they're overworked, underpaid, undertrained. Okay, the company in question is Prism Universal Security Solutions. Okay, and if you know anything about that company, they are an inferior version. They're an inferior competitor to Allied Universal. And I've done under the table security work, by the way, so I have a little bit of a hand of keeping had some, what I consider competitors, past, future, and present. I don't really do Undertale security anymore, or balancer stuff, but I used to. Allied Universe guys, they get benefits, they get packages, they get better hours, they get better money, right? And there's actually less buying to become one of them. But they're a little picky. They don't fuck around. But Prism guys, they're getting screwed. Right? So we got that going on. And you would think, nuclear facility, you give it, nuclear equipment, some stuff to wear. No. They're just sitting there eating fucking radiation. Those guys, this facility's been closed a while, and a lot of these guys have done security for this nuclear facility. Cancer. They signed a waiver of risk, and this waiver of risk, by the way, is the same waiver that you sign at McDonald's. I was a maintenance man there. It's the same waiver you sign at any place of residence that you can't get sued if you get cancer, or you can't sue them if you get cancer. Yeah, they know that it's leaking radiation. They know that it's giving these guys cancer and actively killing them after just a couple of months. And they're just allowing it to happen. And the government has literally given the thumbs up on it. And you look at privatized nuclear facilities that are not funded by the government, they don't fuck around. They are I don't like handing anything to private corporations, but the United States government is no longer what it was or what it was meant to be. It is actually the world's largest privatized corporation of all. You can vote guys in and out, but it's not going to change that, And I'm not saying don't vote, please do. You can change how the corporation works, but you can't change the fact that it's a corporation. That's just kind of the sad reality we live in. It's certainly what our founding fathers were not proud of, and I'll tell you right now, our founding fathers wouldn't have liked the Republicans or the Democrats. They wouldn't, there was a big fight between Federalists and anti-Federalists, and I hope Alexander Hamilton burns in fucking hell, because he was a Federalist scumbag, and he's the only reason why we pay taxes. So, taxes that go to leaking nuclear facilities that are just liabilities for, somebody to break in and do something, I guess. A little scary, a little doomsday apocalypse for you. Yeah, I'm not happy about that. And speaking of both parties, guess what? Neither party's doing anything. So say whatever the fuck you want. I don't care, but neither party's gonna do anything. Which is a shame. We could fix that tomorrow. It would take somebody who's willing to do something, and it would also take bringing it to their attention. And speaking of, this is actually one of the things that President Carter actually tried to warn us about was things, like privatizing things and then funding them with US dollars is not a good idea because it causes a lot of harm, and you get companies that they burn taxpayer dollar but don't do things right. Because they know the US government will continue to fund them no matter what. People demonize Carter as this guy who didn't do anything during a hostage situation. That's actually not the truth. All those were Israeli terrorists, Israeli and Taliban terrorist figures who were funded by shell companies and all that. This isn't even a secret. This is like blatant. Like you could Google this on a gov.org. That's the joy of them declassifying things, is they, you know, declassify things so that they can rub shit in our face, and so that they can get away with whatever they want. You know, every government does that. But you know, this is common knowledge now, and you know, it was just basically a campaign smear against President Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter, like, when he got out of office, he actually helped us with a lot of shit. He was, you know, all about helping the poor and everything. He actually did a lot of stuff before being president. And he thought that by becoming president, he could do more. Instead, he got sabotaged by every political party possible, and he literally had like the CIA working against him, and corporations just take a massive shit on him, you know. And then you look at that, and just to further the proof of that, after he was president, he did even more before he was president. He spent a lifetime helping people. You know, I always, one of the things I've always said was that, like, you know, John F. Kennedy was the last good president, blah, 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 blah. But, you know, the more I learn about Carter, the more I only learn good things, you know. And these are things that are outside of what any media would say. These are things of, you know, like the Black Panther Party, you know, and other various communities would say about him. You know, and the guy was willing to get shit done, and he was willing to work with people as long as what he was doing was okay. You know, and sometimes you have to work with snakes to do that, but hey man, you know, just because somebody's like, I don't know, a big time gangster or something, if they want to donate you know, $1 million to cure cancer or some shit, you're not gonna say no. Why would you? It doesn't make sense. It's antithetical to the process. You know, take a win where you can. You know, and that doesn't mean you give it a pass, but just take a win where you can. You know, and you could say the same about Carter himself. You don't give him a free pass, because sure, he was sabotaged as the president, you know, but you could argue he did fuck all to the fighting. It looks like I reached the end of the game in terms of losing, so. Oh, I qualified, okay. I qualified. It wanted to be really clear that I barely made it in, but that I failed in making any kind of placement. Thanks, game. Really appreciate that feature of you specified. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Well, you qualified. Fuck you. Not really any upgrades I can afford to. Hopefully this next track doesn't suck. But yeah, no, like Carter was different. He also tried to undo a lot of the shit that like is now a problem. You know, the stuff that Ronald Reagan had put in. You know, people love Ronald Reagan, but they just neglect the fact that he basically invented gun control. And his reasons for doing so was racism against the Black Panther Party. Just racism in general, actually. You know, he was governor of California. If you wonder why, like, Gavin Newsom is such an asshole, all Gavin is doing is copying Ronald Reagan and consolidating his power while shitting on everyone, which is exactly what Ronald Reagan did. Arnold Schwarzenegger was not foolproof, but he came in and cleaned up a lot of the crap Ronald Reagan had put into every state. You know, when Arnold was governor, we were actually doing pretty good, financially and otherwise. In the case of, you know, Gavin, you know, he's ruined all that. And it's it's just basically reinstating like crap that Reagan came up with. You know, being attached to Israelis or the U.S. government trying to, you know, teach trans elmos, whatever the fuck, you know, in the Middle East, which is a complete waste of money. Like, that ties into Israel. And you know, Ronald Reagan had a huge collection of Israeli firearms. I wonder if that's how they got crap. Because a lot of those were gifts. He got us close to Israel. He prolonged the Cold War because anybody in his shoes could have ended them yesterday. Financially speaking, he could have financially collapsed them anytime he just chose not to. You know, he could have backed Siberia, because Siberia has never been okay with being a part of Russia. They've always wanted to be like their own democracy. They've always been a pro-democratic people. You know, and that's like 78% of Russia's land right there. You know, they don't currently have a way to fight back against the rest of Russia because of, you know, how their government is and the control and all that. It's not really a democracy like they claim. It's a dictatorship. It's a really well thinly hidden dictatorship. You know, and they've always been terrible, whether it's the Soviet Union or what they are now. You know, I think Siberia deserves that. You know, Ronald Reagan could have ended that, but the problem is well, you know, having the Cold War and having the KGB around kinda helped him get elected again. You know, as fucked up as that is, that's what it is. He kept the Soviet Union around so that he could get reelected. You know, and people are gonna comment, well, you know, there's nothing wrong with trans people, blah, blah, blah. There isn't. If you're trans, good for you. You know, it's just, if we try to teach other countries that are homophobic, that stone you to death for being gay, about trans people, it's a waste of money. You know, they have the internet. They actually do, by the way. They have the internet. Okay? If they want to learn about it, they will. That's just the thing, they don't. So we're wasting money. You know, we're wasting the taxpayer dollars. We could use that to help homeless veterans. We could use that, you know, to actually help the trans community if that's really your goal. There's so many other things we can do with that money that would be better spent. You know, and speaking of homophobia and everything, who was the most homophobic president of all? You know, there'd be Ford, of course. But the second one would be Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan second place. You know, the AIDS scare, that was him. Okay, don't ask, don't tell, that was also him. You know, he's kind of a fucking hater. You know, he's a racist. He's a gun grabber. He's homophobic. Okay, he got us closer to Israel. You know, he collapsed the housing market. You know, Megadeth has a song about that called Foreclosure of a Dream. Alright. You know, Lil Wayne has a song about how Carter is fucking amazing, and saying Carter, you know, President Carter is amazing is also like basically shitting on Ronald Reagan, because Carter was all about fucking with Reagan's crap, which is of course why the Republicans really hate Carter. You know, funnily enough. But then all the things that Republicans complain about are, well, they're things that Ronald Reagan did. Same on the Democrat end, and, you know, here's the thing. Republicans got issues. They have a lot of issues. You know, they were always assholes themselves. You know, I would even argue that Abraham Lincoln is not the real American great emancipator. that in fact John Brown was the real American great emancipator, so much so that he was willing to die, not just himself, but he's willing to sacrifice his own sons to try and free slaves. You know, and I would also call him the only good religious person. If you ask me, that's the only one. Yeah, he was a Quaker. You know, good for him. He was also friends with I forget the guy's name. Why do I always forget this dude's name? He's super important. The guy whose name I can't remember, he was an African slave that was brought over to the colonies that actually learned to read on his own and used the law and the court system to argue and sue his master to become free, and became a prominent member of, you know, what was essentially the slave rebellion, helping, you know, people like Harriet Tubman. I cannot remember his name. But him and John Brown were friends. You know, and what made them friends was that he went over to John Brown's house, and John Brown's kids greeted him like he was a friend. There was no uncomfortableness because of the color of his skin or anything. You know, it's just, oh, you're a person. Oh, you're a friend of my father. Oh, yeah, whatever. And it was that sort of like, oh yeah, you know, whatever, no uncomfortable awkwardness. Because even the people who wanted to emancipate the slaves, they still had, you know, their issues in terms of feeling awkward around the African colonies. You know, and actually, that's actually one of the things that the Black Panther Party talks about. And I will never call the Black Panther Party, you know, anything like a gang or a terrorist group, because that's bullshit. And it's just straight bullshit. No matter how you want to spin that or shit that, they're a political party, and good on them. You know, everything they did, by the way, was technically legal. It's just really getting shit on everything. That being said, though, like, you know, John Brown's the real emancipator. Abraham Lincoln's an asshole. He didn't want to give black soldiers fair pay. You know, he didn't want to give them fair pay because freedom is rewarded enough. If you want shit done, you pay for it. You know, that's literally the fucking American way. If you want shit done, you pay for it and you get what you pay for. We're a consumerist society. Get on board. Okay? Actually, funnily enough, that's something Republicans say all the time. So, yeah, you know, just because it comes out the mouth of a hypocrite doesn't mean it's not true. You know, and honestly, here's the other thing too, that, you know, this is real Johnny Silverhand of me. Actually, it's how my cousin described it. Yeah, no, you vote with your bottom dollar. You know, don't just mindlessly consume crap. You know, I mean, just look at, like, this game, for example, Market Failure. Well, not even a failure, just okay game on market. You know, made 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, before I was even born, more than likely. And I've had more fun playing this game than anything. Anyhow, you know, Ronald Reagan's an asshole, Abraham Lincoln is an asshole, Republicans are assholes, but, you know, back to the other part of the topic, Democrats are hell of a lot worse, because we can trace their roots back directly to the Confederates. We can trace them back to the Confederates. A lot of them we can trace actually to the KKK themselves. And worst of all, we can trace them to eugenics. And depending on what members and what family members and people within their society we're talking about, we can even trace them not only to eugenics, but to Nazis as well. You know, it's funny that they like to use that word a lot, because, you know, like, some of them where it's like, oh yeah, you look at their family tree and it's like, oh yeah, this guy literally was a Nazi. Like full on, like they were Americans who went over and fought in World War II on the Nazi side. Just terrible stuff. Jesus Christ, I don't know how fuck this level is hard. So, you know, it's like the Republicans are horrible, but the Democrats are pretty fucking bad too. You know, actually a great deal worse. You know, and yeah, I would put it like this too, because you know, it's not fair to put one party as more, you know, closer to the Nazis or closer to the Soviets than the other. It's not realistic. But if you had to, the Democrats are closer to the Nazis, and you know, the Republicans are actually closer to the Soviet Union. You know, they even talk about the same things like being traditional and shit. You know, they have very similar talking points. You know, and not only that, but on top of that, the other part of it is these, you know, out of both parties. You know, but out of both parties, it's like both are not great. But I would rather have the one that's like actually trying to somewhat be reasonable. You know, they are still unreasonable, they are still super homophobic, but you can actually talk to them. You can actually argue with them, they will actually debate you. You know, if you go try to talk to like a hardcore Democrat, they're just gonna scream and call you a Nazi and everything. They won't even listen. You know, and there's a stark difference. You know, and like you look at the history of like Democrats as being uncompromising, which is why they can never get shit done. And they're so uncompromising that they won't even run their primary. And then Republicans, like, you know, they actually run their primary, they actually debate you, they will actually bend the rules and flex on things. And sometimes it's not the best thing in the world, sometimes it's actually terrible, because that's, most of the time, that's how things like gun control gets passed. But other than that, like, they're not, they can be talked to. So, and I think it's real scary when you close down your ability to have a conversation, because that is infinitely worse than anything else. You know, you can't change the mind of somebody who won't even talk. You know, and as far as like which party's more racist, I'd say actually Democrats. You know, and their talking points about, you know, people of color, I find them patronizing. I really do. You know, I'm not even speaking, you know, for any particular community. By the way, I'm not even speaking, you know, for the Asian community or the Black community or the Mexican. I'm just speaking in general. Like, hearing them talk and the way they talk about other races is really fucking patronizing. It really honestly is. Regardless of whether or not you are or are not of that race. You know, everything they've ever said has been extremely patronizing. And I think that attitude is the reason why we actually look at the communities that we talk about, you know, Black community, Mexican community, Asian community. All those communities are more likely to vote Republican than they are Democrat. You know, I just really think that we should not be a two-party system, because, again, I don't think either party is great. I would much rather see us venture out with different parties. You got the Green Party. I know somebody's gonna get mad about that. The Green Party is socialist. 11th place is terrible, but it's socialist methods with libertarian ideals. Okay, they want to accomplish the same things as libertarians, but they want to use socialism as a tool. And then, so they are actually technically what a Democrat is to a Republican as what they are to me, because I'm a libertarian. Except the Green Party is not racist. It is the bigger picture. And I think that matters a lot because that's going to affect their policies, And then you look at, the Libertarian Party, and you can argue that it's a bunch of old white people. That is the truth. You see in that community, you see a lot more mixed race or white people, but we're not. None of that is about racism. A lot of us firmly believe that you should have the right to defend, full-on castle doctrine, defend your home. That, if, say, a racist were to come on your front door, you should be able to fucking shoot them through the door. Because, well, they're only there for one reason. And that one reason is to fucking hate you. And it should be a prerogative to defend yourself against hate. And that's the thing is, the reasoning of, the Republican Party being the popular choice amongst all races is because they actually win elections. They actually have presidents, okay? And then they don't talk patronizing, They don't patronize people on race. And we've had Republicans that have been racist. We've had Republicans that have been not racist. That is true. No matter how you want to shit that. But, you know what? There is a mixed bag there. And then you look at, the other side, and there's no mixed bag. That means it is terrible. That controls look awful. I don't like third persons. Okay. This game's also great, by the way. I had this game when I was a kid. This is another one I had. Again, I had both copies of this. I've been a long time since I've seen JTD. And I think if I was a representative of a particular community, if that was my mindset, as ridiculous as that sounds. Oh, did you just... Okay, can you not... Wow, okay. What the fuck is this? What was my kick button? That's my jump. Can you, yeah. Fuck you. I have no sound. Oh, that's right, because I turned it off. If I was a representative of any particular community, I would try to vote for the party that can actually win presidents. Okay, can you... I forgot how hard this game was. I also forgot how terrible this music was. non-fatal wounds. Yeah, sure, buddy. Keep telling yourself that. Yeah, but you know, so like that's the reason why I feel like the Libertarian Party doesn't tend to get. Did I just kill a waitress? That was fucked up of me. Yeah, and so you know, with that in mind, like I don't think it's anything to do with racism. You know, and there's certainly not homophobia. You know, and what really turned me on to being a libertarian actually was Dave Champion, and you can actually still talk to him over on Facebook. You know, he did a book called Taxes Shattering the Myth. You should check that out as well. Jesus. That was terrible. Come on. It's not as hard as the Sega Genesis Terminator 1, by the way, but it is still apparently really fucking hard. Come on, there we go. Thought I had to go to the phone. Oh, come on. Let's see. Maybe this one. I don't understand. Oh, you know what? I didn't try all my buttons, did I? Let's see. Yeah, I don't think those do anything. There we go. I had to press up on the D. Okay. Do I just walk off screen? Yeah. I did terrible. That's actually the first time I've done. Okay. Where do I turn? Is there a turn button? Ah, okay. That's actually kind of cool, though. I think I'm supposed to... I'm still learning the controls here. There we go. I think I have to go this way. It's a radial system, which is not great. It's square. There we go. All right. Now I'm starting to get this. Speaking of fucking world. I should be able to. Whoa. Why does he just turn into a bomb to come get me? Fuck you. Shoot me. Really? Such a good actor, though. I'm pretty sure I've just searched the whole place top to bottom. What the hell? Let's see. So non-fatal. Sure. Whatever you mean to tell yourself. Oh look, the bikers are back. This is not great. What the fuck am I... Okay. Of course. Okay. I get it now. What a loving home. No fucking pictures of John Connor. I just have to keep searching. There we go. Fuck. How would you be able to confirm it's John Connor in the photo if you've never seen it? The good old crouch shoot. What? Come on, just die. Thank you. I guess I just have to kind of like ignore the fact that you're shooting the fuck out of me. Come on. Riveting gameplay here. Can we, why is the T-1000 even here? Well, I know the answer to that. Sort of. There's gotta be stairs somewhere, right? Fuck. The fuck? Oh, fuck you. I'm just gonna ignore you. How does that make you feel? This game was cooler than I remember. Because this actually kind of sucks. That's not terrible. I don't know. The fucking nostalgia's definitely worn off. Yep, there it goes. T-1000 is dead. Alright. Categories. Oh, yeah. Let's get that off my screen. That'll be the end of this stream. 'Cause fuck it.